So I first started noticing that something was different about my son, Jonah. He had a little bit of anxiety here and there in his young life, but when he was 4 years old, he woke up one morning with severe OCD. He just woke up asking the same question over and over and over again. And I sent him off to school, and he came home from school still asking the same question over and over and over again, no matter how many times we answered him. And from there, it turned into different questions and different behaviors that were concerning. He would rub his face over and over again, feeling like there was something on there, no matter how many times we told him there wasn't. It didn't matter that his skin was becoming raw. It would bleed from all of the washing and rubbing that he would do. He couldn't sit at the table through a meal because every time he put something took a bite or took something in his mouth, he would have to leave to make sure it wasn't on his face. I commented on an online blog that said, I think it was a mom telling a story about her child at school. I sent her an email, the mom who had written it, and she was the one who wrote back and said, because I had included a few details about my son and why I enjoyed her blog so much, and she wrote back and asked me if I had ever heard of PANDAS. That brought me to Google and the computer. There wasn't a whole lot back then available, but I did find, I think I found the PANDAS network and their list of symptoms for the diagnostic criteria. I could check every single one. He had experienced every single one. And when I wrote the mom back and told her this, she suggested I try some anti-inflammatory medicine, just a generic, regular children's ibuprofen, and to see if that reduced his symptoms, then I might be, that he might fit this diagnosis better. Gave him a dose of the medicine, and within, I'm not exactly sure how long it took, but that afternoon, after that one dose, he was unrecognizable to me. I'd never seen him so calm. The frequent urinating that he was doing, how many times a day? I don't even know. We've talked about it before. I think you estimated at 50. I don't know. It was a lot. That stopped. His questions always he'd always have to ask, if I was leaving a room, if I'd be right back. He'd be very concerned about that. We'd gone out that afternoon and we went to play, I think, at his grandparents' house, and he just was able to leave my side. He was able to go and play. He didn't have to come up the stairs and ask me every 5 seconds if I was still there. It was incredible. This had gone on for almost a year, daily, all day, and one dose of that took most of it away. So it was incredible and just shocking, mind-blowing, what's happening here. This is something I was told he's going to have for the rest of his life, that with years of therapy, cognitive behavior therapy, he might be able to retrain his brain to think differently. We thought we were in for a really long haul. We thought this, was just who he was going to be. And then this. So I got on the phone to my doctor right away and made an appointment, and I thought she's going to think this is the most incredible thing like I do. And she had never heard of it. And after some talking about what I had read, she said, "Oh, okay, I think maybe I heard about this in med school, but it's really rare. It can't be." Anyhow, I left pretty deflated from that appointment, but I didn't give up, went back, and just kept pushing for referrals, pushing for more help. I realized that Lena might have PANDAS also. Around the same time we were searching for treatment for Jonah, she began having some more severe symptoms, like not being able to sleep, having severe anxiety about sleeping, not being able to go to see her grandparents anymore. She couldn't go and stay the night with them. She couldn't go to her friend's house on play dates. So she started developing a lot of anxiety. And we had also discovered that she was dealing with some pretty chronic strep infections at that time too, that we were unaware of. So it just lined up. Through a local agency here in Sarnia, we were hooked up with another physician who's a developmental pediatrician. And this one was really interesting because she did believe that this condition existed. However, there was not enough research behind treatment practices. So she wasn't, if you can't treat it, why would I diagnose it? At this time, I had also had a referral into Dr. Edwards, our PANDAS physician. When I contacted her office, I asked them if she knew what PANDAS was, which was your typical question back then, because usually nobody had. And her office told me, yes, she has. And I said, oh my goodness, would she see my son? I think this is what he has. And she said, well, does he have autism? And I said, no, he doesn't. And she said, because she's going into specialty, so she's not taking anybody who doesn't have autism. And I just begged her, like, begged and begged. I said, can you please just tell her about my son? Tell her what's happening, that nobody will help. And she took him on, luckily. And we sat down in her office that day, and when we saw her and she read through all of his file and all the notes from the other doctors, notes that I'm sure said I was an anxious mother or just searching or reaching, and she said, I think this is what this is. I know this is what this is, and this is the treatment. This is what we do for it. And I'm going to start him on antibiotics. And I realized that Marin might have PANDAS about 6 months after Jonah and Lena started seeing their PANDAS doctor. She had this sudden onset of, I don't know what else to call it, but rage. Morphed into some really upsetting behaviors. She had the tics too. She was having some tics. But then she started just having these insane, crazy meltdowns, just hallucinating. Not being able to have clothes on her body, but desperately wanting clothes on her body. So emptying out every drawer, pulling her drawers out, emptying her closet, just trying literally every piece of clothing on while she's screaming and upset in between. And it was that night that happened that I emailed the doctor, and she started her on the treatment as well, and she turned right around. So for my kids, they were all started on a dosage of antibiotics, like a treatment dose of antibiotics, as well as an anti-inflammatory medication. And within a few days for all of them, the improvements were incredible.